I've got.
Yeah, you do have a bunch. Do you? How many you have? How many? 15. Well, I got.
Hello there and welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're here every week discussing current events and topical issues, and another exciting guest this week.
Yes, we've been running a series from time to time as guests are available to us, the particular guests we want, on a series called Oklahoma's Impact Players. And today we have Vic Diffee of Diffie Motor Company, who's going to be one of Oklahoma's impact players. He is that already. He's going to come talk to us about something that all of us deal with, but most of us don't know very much about, and that is the automobile business. We think it's going to be a fascinating show.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Most of us as adults have bought a car at some point, and so we know what that experience is like on this side, but what's it like on the other side? Vic Diffie's going to disclose what it's like to be a car dealer in the 21st century.
He will tell all the dealer secrets.
Yeah. We'll be right back with The Verdict coming up.
For one Oklahoma-based company, success didn't happen overnight. Initially, the days were long, 80-hour weeks common. As we grew, we wanted to share our success, and the ideals of corporate and civic responsibility found a welcome home. Today, we're the largest investor in the Sooner State and a source for exciting, new, high-quality jobs. We're Chesapeake Energy, committed to building a better Oklahoma.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
Hi, I'm Court Diffie. With all of the change that has taken place in the car industry in the past decade here in Oklahoma, it's hard to find a family-run business anymore. One of the things that makes us different, that if you visit any one of our 3 locations, you're going to find one of our family members there ready to help you. Does that really make any difference? We really believe it does. So I invite you to come out and experience the Diffie family difference and decide for yourself.
Hello there and welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
We are really pleased today to be joined on the set of The Verdict by Vic Diffee. Vic is one of Oklahoma's impact players, a very fine gentleman who brings a lot of integrity and wisdom to not only Oklahoma City, but the car business in particular in Oklahoma. Vic is the youngest of 8 children, grew up in the automobile business himself, and he's perpetuated that by bringing his family into the automobile business with him. He attended Southern Nazarene University and Oklahoma City University. He himself has been in the car business for over 50 years, although you couldn't tell it by looking at him. And he has 3 locations in Oklahoma City. Vic, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You know, Vic, I was really surprised to hear that your father had been in the industry as early as he was. So really, your involvement going through your father goes back about as far as the car dealerships go. Isn't that right? When did he start?
He actually started in a Ford dealership in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1919.
And he was selling
cars, yes, sir.
That's so how's it changed? Give us the big picture difference there in the 85 years.
Well, I'm sure there's been a lot of change. My father later got into just the used car business, and I can remember growing up on that used car lot. I loved it. Being the youngest of 8, I think I got treated like a grandson instead of a son. But boy, summers and as soon as school was out, I was at that car lot with my dad.
Why the fascination? How did you fall in love with the act of selling an automobile?
I loved cars, but I think it was more watching my dad operate, and I don't think I've ever met another one like him. He loved people, so he was a natural, and he got into what we would call the note lot business, buy here, pay here, long before we know it to be very common today. But he started his business doing that, so he knew his customers, and they were repeat people.
Well, you've got 3 locations, and tell our viewers just what part of town are they located
Okay,
in?
sir. My dad and our family moved to Oklahoma in 1952. And in 1954, we started a location that's still in operation on 39th, just west of MacArthur. And then in about the early 80s, we put in a store at Reno and MacArthur. And we've enlarged that just recently and put an import center with that. And then in 91, we bought the Ford Lincoln Mercury franchise in El Reno and moved that out on I-40. And so that's where we see most of the action today.
Is there a difference in operating in a town the size and positioning of El Reno as opposed to in Oklahoma City?
Yeah, there would be a lot of difference. We realized if we were going to maintain the inventory size on used vehicles, and then of course hoping that we would grow that dealership, that we'd need to get out on the interstate. So as soon as we got out there, we felt that our advertising was much easier, and then the public could find us much easier. So we just began saying we're on I-40 west of the metro at exit 125.
I've noticed something that has always fascinated me. I'm not a marketing student at all, but you see the Miracle Mile of cars in Norman, and there's kind of a strip of car lots, or car dealerships, I should say, up in northern Oklahoma City and southern Edmond on Broadway Extension. What's the philosophy of that it's better for you to be closer to a competitor? How does that work?
I think that gives the public a chance to go to somewhat one location, and yet they can shop maybe 3 or 4 brand of cars. So I believe that's a good thing, and I know that the Magnificent Mile has been very successful in Norman, and then the dealerships up near Edmond have done the same, because they've offered the public a way to look at the different brand of car and compare.
Do you have that same situation in any respect out in El Reno?
Yes, sir. We are right next door to Rick Jones, the Pontiac Buick dealer, and then also the Chrysler and Plymouth store as well, Chrysler Dodge, I'm sorry, and Jeep, and then the Chevrolet agency, and that's called Frontier Chevrolet and Frontier Chrysler.
How many employees does a typical dealership have? How many percentage of those are in sales, and what are the other positions that would be involved?
Well, in a new car store, your service department's probably the most vital thing there. So counting your service people, I would say your salesman would be probably less than your service personnel. So altogether in our 3 stores, I think we have about 130 employees.
Is there a large turnover in any category of employee?
There usually is in salesmen, but we've found that we can work on that area, and we've got guys that have been with us. One man's been there since 1960, so we've really got some tenure built up with our salesmen, and I believe the public likes it that way. If they buy their car from a certain salesman, they want to be able to depend on that guy. Even if they need service work, they want to call him and have him make sure that there's a car there for them to, we call them loaners. We give them a free loaner when they bring their car in for service.
What's the most satisfying part of operating a car dealership?
By far, dealing with the people. People are, of course, very interesting, and they have different personalities. And my father would tell me quite often, Vic, you will need to learn how to identify with your customer. And so to me, that's a challenge, and it's still just as much fun as it ever was. I hope that we're learning a little bit all the time.
What's a mistake you see a beginning salesperson make that I'm sure you've had to tutor and train a lot of salespeople?
Yes, sir.
What are you looking for when you see a sales guy come in or a
I
saleswoman?
think the most, where some of them fail, they kind of just think the people are going to come to you, and that really doesn't happen that way. You have to call people, and you've always got some list of names of someone that might have left that you can give to a new salesman. But it's actually a fun thing to watch a good salesman get started. We've hired people. Most successful salesman I have right now was a home builder. So he had no experience in the car business, but he's been the top salesman ever since we hired him for about 20
What's
years.
the secret? What makes one salesperson better than the other?
I'd say he's got as much personality as far as identifying, and then I would say he really likes people. And they realize that. It's not a put on. And they know that Roy will, do anything they need done. I've seen him pick up their cars and bring them out for service and take it back to them, and he's the kind of person that they know they can call on when they want him.
Just a few seconds left in this segment. We talked about what's the most satisfying part about your business. What's the least fun? What's the least fun about being in the car business?
For me, it's the fact that in growth, it seems that there are more responsibilities. And I know we all talk about there's more paperwork today to anything that we do, but I would say that loving to be around the people and help making a deal with a salesman, is the most enjoyable, and taking me away from that to do the things that the owner has to do would be the least the least enjoyable.
We're discussing selling a car, buying a car with Vic Diffee. He's one of Oklahoma Impact players, which we do frequently on The Verdict. We'll be right back with more after this.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
And Blankenship has stopped at the line of scrimmage. No gain on the play. Leaving it 4th and 7 on the Tiger 46-yard line. 38 seconds on the clock. The Tigers have no choice but to go for it. Wiggins in to do the kicking. Here's the snap. And the kick is away.
RSM McGladrey. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. RSM McGladrey. In Oklahoma City, the phone number is 405-843-5311.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Camp Myers, and we're visiting with one of our Impact players, Vic Diffee. Vic, it seemed to me that, I grew up thinking that that all dealerships worked under the price was negotiable. And then it seemed like there was a span of time, I don't know, a few years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, in which this non-negotiable price seemed to be all the rage. And now I'm seeing it going back the other way. Am I making this up? Did that really happen? Was there a trend in your business?
It really happened, and I think that some mega groups started getting into the car business, they thought the car business was more like a science than an art, and I think that people enjoy meeting the dealer. They like dealing with the salesman that they've dealt with before. So I just think that the no haggle and the science part of the business just wasn't popular, either with the buying consumer, and I don't think the dealer enjoyed it either.
I perceive there's been a consolidation in the automobile retail dealership business, with factories coming in and buying dealerships, and independent dealerships being acquired by groups. Do you see that, and are you affected by that at all?
I think we began to see that actually about 10 years ago probably, and we saw large companies like Automax and various companies that were, and the public knew when they went in that they were that it was a mega group type dealership. Now we're seeing these companies come in and buy dealerships, but maintain the same name that's on them, and that is a little bit confusing to the public because they think they're going back in and dealing with a guy that's been there for years, but he's not the one that's running the show now.
Mm-hmm. And so the idea is that the bigger the better. I mean, is that the theory, that there's just you can make up some money on volume?
I believe that it was just considered a good investment to get into the automobile business, and those larger companies say that their main source of income is through the financing and selling of warranties on the cars. So they approach it a little differently. They say they can take a lesser price, but then they pretty much are, they want to hook you up to doing your financing with them and your extended warranties and credit life insurance and things like that.
You're kind of old school in that not only is your name on the sign and you're in the building, but members of your family are there. I mean, there's a lot of Diffees around these dealerships. How has that worked, and how many Diffees are involved in all of your operations?
Well, my wife and I have 4 children. Both sons are involved with us in the Ford Lincoln Mercury store. And then one son-in-law runs that original location on 39th. The other one is at Reno and MacArthur, the other son-in-law. So I guess we're all in there. My daughter runs our business development center, our oldest daughter, and she just does a terrific job. Then both of the daughter-in-laws work for us, and they certainly have a real influence on our business. One of them is gifted at calling customers. The other one, of all things, bakes fresh cookies for every customer. So those 2 girls are pretty popular.
I've seen on television an ad that deals with your Kicking Tea Kids. Tell our viewers what that is and how that came about.
We thought that my wife and I have 15 grandchildren, and we thought that this idea, when we were approached by Kevin McAfee, and McAfee and Associates is the agency we go through on advertising, and he had a contract with Learfield Sports, which is a large part of OU's sports system. But they came up with this Kicking Tea Kids, and so the kids get to kick a ball during the halftime, and the one that kicks the furthest wins the prize. So it's gone over good. We're using our grandkids to make those commercials, and people seem to think that's okay.
Hey, I don't know that you've ever walked into a dealership and bought a car, but if you were to go do that, what questions should a person ask when they go into a car dealer? People out there right now thinking about a car, what should they ask when they go into their dealer about a car to find out more information about it?
I think that our people are very well informed now. I believe that through the internet and other sources, they are very much informed.
So they come in with more information than,
That's
say,
correct.
a generation ago, because they hadn't thought of that, because of the internet and
really
things
do.
like that.
And I think the main thing they're interested in, I'd say in 90% of the cases, they have a car to trade. And I would say the first question I would ask, are you strong in the used car business? Because then that you'll get a better trade. In other words, if the dealer has a policy of just wholesaling his used car trades, you would not probably get offered as much for your trade-in value. So that's probably the main question I would ask.
What, Vic, you're here as one of Oklahoma's impact players, and you've been a big impact in the Oklahoma community for many years, but what does Vic Diffee do when he's not on the car lot? What do you like to do?
Well, I love to travel. Again, it's just a blessing that those kids all live right around us, so I have a lot of fun with grandkids. And we love to boat. We've all grown up water skiing together, and I love to snow ski, and I'm a tennis player. So I find plenty to do, but I love to travel.
Looking ahead, you're an independent auto dealer. What's the biggest challenge facing your industry in 2005 and beyond?
I would say the biggest challenge we have would be in the domestic situation versus the import situation. And our domestic dealers, of course, we're Ford Motor Company, but GM is a fine company, Chrysler. But some of the playing field's not quite level because we have these obligations of retirement income and retirement health benefits.
You mean the manufacturer
The
does?
manufacturer does,
Yeah.
but that really affects the dealer because the manufacturer's trying to find a way to stay competitive, and he's having some difficulty, that we're having some difficulty doing that because we're competing with companies that don't have that kind of policy in force.
Noticed just recently that many of the manufacturers, I don't know whether all did or most did, but several came out and said, we're going to give you the same price on our car as we give our employees. That came, lasted a while, and is gone. Did that have any impact on sales?
It really did. Sales were very good. That started with General Motors in June. Ford didn't come through with that till about July the 8th. But we did see July and August business very, very good. That stopped at the end of August. So you might say we used up some of our buyers during that time. But I believe that it was for real, for one thing. It was not a hoax. People could come in and see the A-plan price right on the invoice. And you had nothing to hide at all, so you just turned the invoice around and let them see it. And so it became a matter then of who's going to give the most for my trade-in. And so, but the reason it went away, I believe the manufacturer just couldn't continue doing that.
We got just a few seconds left. What kind of car just flies off the lot fast? Is there a certain color that people seem to be more interested in, or a certain brand that people ask about more?
Red is the color. You can count on a red vehicle. We have that new MARC LT truck, and I get a red one and it's gone. You know, really, a salesman just calls one of his customers that's been looking. As far as product, we've really enjoyed selling the town cars because people, especially in western Oklahoma, they like to drive a good, heavy car.
We are out of time. Vic Diffee's been our guest. Vic, thanks for coming on The Verdict.
Thank you very much.
Kent and I'll have a final word when we get back.
That land next door was a mess. Take more than a lawnmower to revive that land. I heard the oil and natural gas people was cleaning up old oil sites, and it wouldn't cost us a blood nickel. Oh yes, sir, it was quite a revival. The whole church showed up, want to make a playground for the kids. It sure is a blessing.
Bringing out the best in each student. That is the simple goal and tradition of Heritage Hall. The focus on the individual shapes the educational experience at Heritage Hall. Each student benefits from small classes, able, dedicated teachers, a solid academic curriculum, and exceptional co-curricular programs of athletics, arts, community service, and other activities, parental involvement, personalized counseling, and the development of responsibility, integrity, and love of learning. If you want education taught with pride, then you want Heritage Hall.